You need a bit of shot treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire.
Hello and welcome to the first Halloween episode of How to Fix It. I know what you're thinking. Why is this show becoming me reviewing what the Cinema Snob reviewed a few weeks ago? This is sort of a review by convenience. For the Halloween episode, I really wanted to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but a problem emerged. I can't look at it subjectively. I love that movie, and I couldn't find anything subjectively wrong with it. I even asked people who didn't like the movie, but their complaints were only minor. But thankfully, the Cinema Snob was able to find me something related to Rocky Horror that isn't that good. Shock Treatment. Shock Treatment is the sequel to Rocky Horror that was supposed to be filmed around the town of Denton from the first film, but a Screen Actors strike caused them to be unable to film outside. So we got this film. Is it as bad as the critics in the 80s said it was? Let's find out. And as for a question of why aren't I doing something more Halloween-y, I really want to review this movie, and if I don't do it now, I'll never do it.
You need a bit of shot treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire.
The film takes place after the first film, and with Brad and Janet now being played by Cliff DeYoung and Jessica Harper to replace the not-returning Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, having been married several years after the events of Rocky Horror. The town of Denton is brought into a 24-hour television studio run by the villainous Farley Flavors, also played by DeYoung. After a musical number, we're introduced, or rather reintroduced, to Betty Hapschatt, now separated from Ralph. They were the couple who got married at the start of Rocky Horror that spurred Brad to propose to Janet. And Betty is now played by Ruby Wax, and Judge Oliver Wright, played by the returning Charles Gray, who seems to be the criminologist/narrator character from the first film, but I'm not entirely sure. Brad and Janet go on Marriage Maze, a game show for married couples, with the blind host Bert Snick, played by Barry Humphries, declaring Brad an emotional cripple and sentencing him to a stay at Dentonvale, a television show about Denton's insane asylum, which is run by Drs. Cosmo and Nation McKinley, played by Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn, who played Rip Raff and Magenta in Rocky Horror, and with their nurses Ansalong, played by Little Nell, and Ricky, played by Rick Mayall. There's a drop-dead Fred joke in there somewhere. The rest of the film details the town's descent into complete takeover by Farley, who after turning Janet into a vapid television celebrity and taking over the town, is revealed to be Brad's twin brother. They have a duet battle and the film ends with Brad, Janet, Judge Wright, Betty and a band that Janet befriended driving out of the insane asylum, while the rest of Denton willingly institutionalizes themselves in Dentonvale. So, evil actually wins this time. That's different.
You need a bit of shot treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire.
While it lost some of its star power in Barry Bostwick, Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, and Meatloaf, this film had its own star power in Ruby Wax, Barry Humphries, and Rick Mayall. The guy playing the cop is even the original Brad Majors from the stage show. Jessica Harper is great as Janet, and while I prefer Barry Bostwick's Brad, Cliff DeYoung is amazing and full of evil charisma as Farley Flavors. Plus, we got O'Brien, Patricia Quinn, and Little Nell back, so that counts for something. Also, the music is so good. Not quite up to the standards of the original, but very close to it. My personal favorites are Denton, USA, Biction in the Kitchen,
Refrigerator, why are we always sooner or later? Bitching in the kitchen or crying in the bedroom all night.
Farley's Song,
I'm gonna take on the entire human race.
You're not looking at a king.
You're looking at an ace.
Little Black Dress,
Well, first you go rip, rip, rip. Then you go snip, snip, snip.
Then you're whipping a zip, zip, zip.
Split it up to the hip, hip, hip. Then as you strip, strip, strip. Oh, you quiver, shiver. For that soft caress as you slip, slip, slip into that little black dress.
Dual Duet,
We lost our home, our family. You've lost compassion, now you're losing me. Well, the best thing you could ever do is die.
Anyhow.
Some people do it for employment, but we're gonna do it anyhow. We're gonna do it anyhow.
And of course, Shock Treatment.
I'm not a locum with motive to suture myself. I've been a cynic for too many years. Playing doctor and nurse, it can be good for your health. I've seen clinics with those gimmicks in Tangiers.
And DeYoung and Harper seem to have a lot of fun with their alternate characters, DeYoung's being Farley and Harper's being the TV celeb Janet. In fact, everyone seemed like they were having a blast, and that's what matters. A film might not be spectacular, but as long as the cast and crew had fun making it, then it's a success. Take a show like Alf, where it's usually deemed a good show, but the cast and crew didn't enjoy working on it.
You need a bit of shock treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire.
Well, of course the cast changes are a bit of a detriment, because Barry Bostwick was unable to return, Frankenfooter and Eddie were killed, so Curry and Meatloaf couldn't come back, and Susan Sarandon's asking price was too high because the strike cut the budget. I also have to say the plot was very confusing and didn't make much sense, despite being a pretty spot-on prediction of what television would become. Some of the songs were pretty meh, and DeYoung's Brad was, in my humble opinion, not as good as Bostwick's. Otherwise, it's a pretty solid movie.
You need a bit of shock treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire.
Well, had the strike not prevented a lot of things, I'd have gotten back as much of the original cast as we could, of course, and filmed it as it was originally intended, to be in a pretty much normal setting to offset the first film. And other than that, I really like this movie. And I didn't expect to. I was expecting something like Sgt. Pepper, but worse. But it's actually better. Interesting fact, Tim Curry was rumored to have been approached to be in this film, but not as Dr. Frankenfooter, but as Brad and Farley. He reportedly declined because he didn't think his American accent would be believable. Could you imagine Tim Curry as Brad Majors? I can totally see him as Farley, but I can't see Tim Curry as the hapless nerd that Brad is in this film. Not that that was a bad thing, I just don't think it would make sense that Brad has suddenly turned into that priest from the beginning of Rocky Horror.
You need a bit of shock treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire. Need a bit of shock treatment. So look out, mister, don't you blow your left resistor for a sister that'll certify ya.
Shock Treatment, while in the words of Egoraptor, not being a bad sequel, but rather an ungraceful one, which is why it was called not a prequel, not a sequel, but an equal, is pretty much a good film. It still has the charm from the first film, and it's a shame that we never got to see any more films set in the Rocky Horror Picture Show universe. But it's a great film, and the soundtrack is on iTunes, so if you like the music, I'd suggest getting that. The film is on DVD, so that's good too. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of How to Fix It, you can hit the subscribe button down below. And if you'd like, you can also leave a comment in the box below that. And if you like this video, share it to your friends and share it around. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time.
I'm not a locum with motive to suture myself. I've been a cynic for too many years. Playing doctor and nurse, it can be good for your health. I've seen clinics with those gimmicks in Tangiers. But if you open your heart to a smooth operator, he'll take you for all that you've got. He'll hand you a curse that'll be with you later. It'll shake you the way he takes off, like a shot.
You need a bit of shock treatment. Get you jumping like a real live wire. Need a bit of shock treatment. So look out, mister, don't you blow your last resistor for a pistol that'll mystify.
Hello and welcome to How to Fix It. Oh shit. I already fucked up. Well, the strike prevented a lot of things. Yep.